In the quiet suburbs of Connecticut, where the lawns were neatly trimmed and the American flags fluttered gently in the breeze, the Thompson family seemed like the very picture of perfection. Their white two-story house with blue shutters stood proudly at the corner of Maplewood Drive. Neighbors waved whenever they passed by, and people often whispered, "That's the family everyone dreams to have." Michael Thompson, in his late 30s, was a successful financial consultant who worked downtown in New Haven. He was admired not only for his sharp suits and confident smile, but for the way he seemed devoted to his family. His wife, Claire, was a homemaker who had traded her career in art for the rhythm of motherhood and marriage. She was elegant in her simplicity, hair tied back neatly, her soft voice carrying warmth, her presence turning the Thompson house into a home. Their daughter, Lily, 8 years old with golden curls and eyes that sparkled like morning sunlight, was the heartbeat of the family. She painted pictures of rainbows and unicorns, wrote little love notes to her parents, and often declared to anyone who would listen, "Mommy and Daddy are the best in the whole wide world." From the outside, the Thompsons were flawless, a family framed in gold. But perfection, as it often does, began to show cracks invisible to the neighbors, but undeniable within the walls of their home. On Friday evenings, Michael would sometimes arrive early, surprising Claire with flowers. "For my beautiful wife," he would say, kissing her cheek as Lily giggled, clapping her hands. They'd set the dinner table with candles, play soft jazz, and laugh like college sweethearts. "Remember our trip to Cape Cod?" Michael would reminisce, his hand reaching across the table. "How could I forget?" Claire would reply, her smile wistful. "You promised me forever under that lighthouse." "And I still mean it," he would say, squeezing her hand. To Claire, these moments felt like the anchor of her marriage. They weren't wealthy enough to take extravagant vacations every year, but Michael's effort, the flowers, the dinners, the long hugs at the end of the day, made her believe their love was still steady. But little by little, change crept in. At first, it was the late nights. Michael claimed his workload had doubled. "New clients, bigger accounts," he'd say, loosening his tie as he walked through the door past midnight. Claire, concerned, offered, "Maybe you should slow down, Michael. You're working too hard." He kissed her forehead and smiled. "It's for us, for Lily's future. Don't worry, I've got it under control." But Claire noticed the exhaustion wasn't on his face, it was something else. A distracted gleam in his eyes, as though his body sat at the dinner table but his mind was elsewhere. Soon after came the phone calls, at odd hours. He'd step into the porch or the backyard, voice lowered, tone urgent. When Claire asked who it was, he would chuckle. "Clients, sweetheart. Not everything in finance can wait until morning." Still, the laughter at dinner began to thin. The flowers came less often, and Lily, once glued to her father's side, now asked, "Mommy, why doesn't Daddy play with me anymore?" Claire brushed it off with a soft smile. "He's just busy, darling. He loves you very much." But in the quiet of her heart, she wondered. One Sunday evening, they were supposed to have dinner with the Johnsons, their next-door neighbors. Claire had cooked a roast. Lily had set the table with care, but Michael called at the last minute. Something came up. "Don't wait for me." His voice rushed over the phone. Claire's hand trembled as she hung up. She forced a smile for Lily's sake, but inside, unease brewed. After dinner, she opened the laundry basket where Michael had tossed his shirt from the previous night. That's when she saw it. A faint, smudged mark near the collar. Lipstick, not her shade. Not something she owned. Her breath caught. She picked up the shirt, staring at it as if the fabric might whisper an explanation. Her mind raced. Maybe it's a mistake. Maybe someone brushed against him at work. Maybe. But deep down, she knew. When Michael came home past midnight, smelling faintly of cologne she didn't recognize, Claire stood in the kitchen waiting. He saw her holding the shirt. His face froze for half a second, just a flicker before he laughed it off, sliding the shirt from her hands. "Claire," he said smoothly, kissing her cheek as though nothing were wrong. "Don't be paranoid. You know how people bump into each other at parties or meetings. It's nothing." But Claire didn't laugh. Her silence was heavier than accusation. and for the first time, Michael's smile looked like a mask. The candles in the dining room had long burned out, their smoke trailing like ghosts of forgotten promises. Claire stood in the doorway of their bedroom, staring at the man she once trusted completely, who now lay beside her, phone clutched tightly under his pillow. Her heart whispered questions she wasn't ready to ask aloud, but the lipstick mark had already answered them. And though Michael's words lingered, "Do not be paranoid," Claire knew the sweet illusion of her perfect life had begun to shatter. The days after the lipstick stain incident stretched like an unending shadow across Claire's heart. She wanted to believe Michael, to believe the easy smile he gave her, the quick dismissal he offered, the soft kiss that tried to erase her doubts. For nearly a decade he had been her anchor, the man she built her home around, the father of her daughter, the person she trusted with every secret of her soul. But now even the sound of his laughter felt foreign, rehearsed, like lines read from a script. And Claire, though wounded, had not forgotten how to observe. Michael, on the other hand, grew bolder. What began as late nights and hushed calls had transformed into entire weekends suddenly swallowed by client emergencies. His once careful excuses grew sloppy. His ties smelled faintly of perfume, not her lavender, but something sharper, sweeter, almost youthful. Receipts slipped into pockets, restaurants she had never been to, hotels she had never heard of. It didn't take long for Claire to confirm what her heart already knew. One afternoon, while folding laundry, she heard Michael's phone buzzing on the dresser. He was in the shower, the sound of running water masking everything. Her hands trembled, but curiosity and dread pushed her forward. She unlocked the phone easily. He had never bothered to change the code. And there it was, a message thread with Emily Carter, a name that meant nothing to Claire until that moment. Emily's texts were bold, dotted with heart emojis and photographs, her smile wide, her blonde hair cascading across the frame, her green eyes sparkling. Last night was perfect. Can't wait for the weekend getaway. Claire's breath caught in her throat. Her hands went cold. She put the phone down quickly, afraid the weight of her discovery might burn her. She glanced toward the bathroom door, where Michael's voice hummed to himself under the shower. The sound felt like betrayal wrapped in normalcy. The third person, Emily Carter, 22, an intern at Michael's firm, Claire would later learn. Young, ambitious, barely out of college, her presence in Michael's life was like gasoline thrown onto dying embers. Suddenly, his middle-aged insecurities blazed with youthful fire. When Claire confronted him gently that evening, "Michael, who is Emily?" He didn't even flinch. He chuckled, shaking his head. "An intern." "Sweetheart, don't embarrass yourself. She asks for career advice, that's all." But Claire had seen enough. The photographs, the words. Her heart knew lies when it heard them. The child notices at the dinner table the change was no longer subtle. Michael ate quickly, scrolling his phone under the table, barely answering when Lily chirped about her drawings or her new spelling test. "Daddy, look, I drew a family picture today," Lily announced one evening, sliding a crayon drawing across the table. Claire's heart broke when she saw it. 3 stick figures, but the father's shape was faint, smaller, drawn at the edge as though fading from the page. Michael barely glanced at it. "That's nice, sweetheart. They say war is hell, but what about the silent war? The one you wage within your own home where the stakes are even higher, and the battlefield is your marriage bed. Today, we bring you the story of a woman who took on her philandering husband and won." It was just another day in paradise for Claire and Michael. Their 6-year-old daughter Lily skipped into the room with 2 drawings. "Mommy, look, this is for you and this is for Daddy," she said, beaming with pride. Claire, busy on the phone, gave her a quick hug and kiss. "Thank you, sweetheart. They're beautiful. Why don't you go show Daddy?" Lily skipped out of the room, unaware that her father was lost in his own world, eyes fixed on his phone. This had become a common occurrence. Michael, usually so attentive, was often lost in his phone, his eyes devoid of the usual warmth they held for his daughter. A chill ran down Claire's spine. Something was off. Very off. She couldn't put her finger on it, but his dismissive attitude towards Lily's innocent offerings was a stark contrast to the man she married. Days turned into weeks and Claire's unease grew. She noticed peculiar bank withdrawals with no explanation, romantic dinners with an unknown woman, and Michael was always conveniently unavailable. It was as if a wall had risen between them, one he seemed determined to build brick by brick. Then there were the stolen moments, the secret glances and hushed whispers behind closed doors. His lies were as transparent as the glass ceiling, yet Claire found herself trapped under its weight. She knew something was amiss, but how could she possibly confront Michael with his own infidelity without proof? She needed a weapon, something solid to pierce through his web of lies. So she began her mission, a silent war where the only casualty was her dignity. Every piece of evidence she gathered was like ammunition. She collected bank statements showing unexplained withdrawals, receipts for romantic dinners, and even managed to get her neighbors involved, piecing together Michael's infidelity like a shattered mirror. And then there were the mirrored phone messages, each one a testament to his deceit. All the while, Michael remained oblivious, or so he thought. He became increasingly careless, taking calls from his mistress, Emily, while on family outings, even discussing his plans for the future with her. Claire, though heartbroken, felt a surge of power with every passing day. She knew the truth, and she was determined to expose it. Months passed, and Claire's evidence lay dormant in a leather binder, a silent time bomb waiting to explode. She realized that her marriage was effectively over. There was no repairing the cracks, no patching the holes. The foundation had crumbled, leaving her with nothing but the bitter taste of betrayal. Yet amidst the ruins of her shattered dreams, a new resolve took root. She would fight, not with anger or bitterness, but with the most potent weapon of all, the truth. With her evidence intact, Claire decided it was time to confront Michael, to let him know that his carefully constructed facade was crumbling. She would use his own words against him, expose his lies, and unveil the truth. As the day of reckoning approached, Claire found solace in her daughter. In Lily's innocent eyes, she saw the reflection of her own strength. This wasn't just a battle for Claire. It was a war for her daughter's sake too, to teach her that even in the darkest of times, one can rise. And so began the final act of the silent war. Claire, once the epitome of a devoted wife, now stood as a warrior, her heart heavy with pain, but her spirit soaring with determination. Her eyes, once filled with love, now glistened with the steel of resolve. The battlefield was set. The weapons were sharpened. All that was left was for the truth to be unleashed. My short stories are now available for free on a popular platform. Check out the link in the description or my bio for more information. The Silent Storm, Part 3, Discovery. Claire put the phone down. Its late-night call from Michael to Emily confirming what Claire already knew. Michael was having an affair. The only question was, how bad was it? Claire had suspected something for a while. There had been secretive phone calls, strange work hours, and a general coldness between Michael and her. When she found Michael's phone with a love note from Emily, an intern at his office, Claire knew her world was crashing down. But she had to be smart, rational, even kind. She had to be the bigger person. She would get a divorce, of course, but she wanted to protect Lily. It was all about protecting Lily. Michael walked into the kitchen to find Claire sitting at the table. Her back was straight, her chin slightly raised. In her hand, she held a piece of paper with Michael's phone number written on it. "I found this in the front pocket of your jeans," she said quietly. "Found what?" Michael asked. He leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. "This piece of paper," Claire said, holding it out. "What does it mean?" Michael stepped closer, peering at the paper. "It means nothing," he said dismissively. "It's just a number." "Then why?" Claire pressed. "Was it in your pocket?" Michael hesitated, then he shrugged. "It was probably there by mistake. Look, I don't know what you're trying to do, but if you're trying to start a fight, you're not going to win." He turned to leave. "Where are you going?" Claire asked. "To work. I have a meeting in the morning. You should get some rest." Michael's retreating figure was rigid, almost like a statue carved in arrogance. Claire stared at him, her eyes burning with unshed tears. Days turned into weeks, each day casting longer shadows as winter approached. Claire spent her time preparing for the inevitable, poring over financial statements, gathering evidence of Michael's affair and seeking advice from her divorce attorney, Karen Mitchell. Karen was a no-nonsense woman with a reputation for getting the best settlements. Despite the icy chill outside, a fire burned in Karen's eyes, a fire that mirrored the turmoil in Claire's heart. Meanwhile, Michael continued to live in their house, oblivious to the silent storm brewing around him. He would come and go as he pleased, unaware that Claire was meticulously documenting every instance of his infidelity, every whispered conversation on the phone, every furtive glance at his computer screen. She became a shadow, watching, waiting, gathering ammunition for the legal battle that lay ahead. One evening, while rummaging through old photo albums, Lily stumbled upon a drawing she had made at school. It was a picture of her family, but instead of paint or crayons, she had used a red marker to depict the sun. Over the moon, Claire felt a pang of guilt. Why hadn't she shielded her daughter from this pain? But then she looked at the picture again, this time focusing on the faces. Lily had drawn Michael with a sad face and herself with a broken heart. It was heartbreaking, but it also gave Claire a new resolve. This wasn't just about money or property anymore. This was about protecting her daughter's innocence, shattered by her father's betrayal. Claire shared the drawing with Karen, who nodded grimly. "He won't get away with this," she said, her voice like steel. As the weeks slipped by, tension filled the house like a thick fog. Michael seemed to sense the approaching storm, but he didn't care. He was too busy living his life, pursuing his affair with reckless abandon. Claire, on the other hand, was meticulous, making sure every detail was accounted for, every piece of evidence secured. She was a woman possessed, driven by a need for justice, for Lily, for herself. Finally, the day arrived when both parties were summoned to the courthouse. As Claire entered the hallowed halls of justice, she felt the weight of it all crashing down on her. This was it. The silent storm had reached its crescendo. Across the room, Michael sat with his entourage, his face betraying no emotion. As the judge entered and the trial began, Claire knew that the battle of their marriage was finally coming to an end. But the scars left by the silent storm would echo in their lives forever. What happens next? Will Claire expose Michael's affair in court? How will he react? To find out, stay tuned for the next part of The Silent Storm. Don't forget to hit the like button for more updates. Your support means everything to me. Until next time, see you soon. This is the Courtroom Showdown. All eyes are on Michael as he smirks confidently. But that smirk will soon vanish as the damning evidence against him unfolds. Karen, his ex-wife, is determined to expose his every lie. She has the perfect plan laid out. First, she presents bank statements showing Michael's lavish spending, including expensive dinners and gifts for a woman named Emily, a woman who doesn't exist in official documents but who's very much real, and sitting right there in the courtroom. Receipts from romantic restaurants, hotel bookings under the alias Mr. and Mrs. Smith, all of it meticulously organized by Karen. And then there's Lily's drawing. It depicts two figures, one labeled Daddy and the other Mommy, both engaged in a heated argument. In the background is a shadowy figure labeled Emily. Karen didn't have this for long, but when she saw the drawing during the custody battle, she knew she had to bring it to the court. This was Lily's way of telling her story, without being able to put it into words. Claire takes the stand. With trembling hands, she tells the court how she shielded her daughter from the manipulative ways of a father living a lie. "I had to be strong for Lily," she says, her voice cracking with emotion. "I couldn't let her see how broken her father was." The prosecution's case is strong, but Michael, with his silver tongue, manages to turn the tables. He casts doubt on Karen's version of events. The judge pauses the trial, allowing Michael's lawyer to introduce a surprise witness. Emily enters the courtroom, her face pale. Under oath, she confirms their relationship and offers a different perspective on the custody battle. "Michael's a good man," she says, her voice shaking. "He's a devoted boyfriend and an exemplary father. I've never seen him like that with my daughter." But the plot thickens when Karen calls another witness, a private investigator who reveals shocking details about Emily's past. She'd been married twice before. The revelation leaves everyone stunned. Could this be the same Emily who Michael claims to have never met? As the trial continues, Michael's arrogance becomes his downfall. His lawyer's relentless cross-examination exposes gaping holes in his story. He stumbles over his words, desperately trying to explain away the mountain of evidence stacked against him. In the gallery, Emily's face is drained of color. Her perfect escape, meticulously planned and rehearsed, is crumbling before her very eyes. She watches helplessly as the judge pieces together the intricate web of Michael's lies. The judge delivers a powerful monologue, his voice echoing through the courtroom. Deception is a pattern of behavior, a thread that runs through Michael's life, weaving a tapestry of broken trust and shattered relationships. He turns to Michael, his gaze unwavering. You are a man who has mastered the art of deception, but your facade has been worn thin. The time has come for the truth to prevail. With a thunderous finality, the judge slams his gavel. The verdict: full custody to Claire. As the gavel echoes through the courtroom, a wave of relief washes over Claire. It's a victory not just for her, but for Lily too. The truth, like a mighty storm, has finally broken through the cracks of Michael's lies, setting them free. In the end, justice is served, protecting the innocent and exposing the deceptive. The court proceedings may be over, but the battle for Lily's heart and future has just begun. Who will win? You decide in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more gripping legal dramas. Ruthlessness. Michael's smirk was confident, almost mocking, as he glanced at Claire across the aisle. The judge, an older man with sharp eyes and little patience, called the room to order. The evidence unfolds. Michael's lawyer opened with bravado. Your Honor, this case is nothing more than the bitter imagination of a jealous wife. My client is a hard-working man, devoted to his family, whose late nights and sacrifices are being twisted into lies. Karen rose calmly, unhurried. She opened Claire's binder, laying the evidence piece by piece before the judge. Bank statements, receipts, hotel bookings, photographs, and finally, Lily's drawings. The courtroom grew silent. Even the judge leaned forward, his expression hardening. Michael's smirk faltered. When Claire took the stand, her voice was steady, her eyes clear. Your Honor, I loved my husband. I built a home with him. But this isn't about me. This is about my daughter. A child deserves a father who is present, not one who is living a lie. Her words landed heavier than any evidence. The turning tide. Michael was called to the stand next. His lawyer coached him to charm, to dismiss, to paint Claire as paranoid. But under cross-examination, his arrogance betrayed him. He stumbled over dates, contradicted his own stories, and when asked about Emily, his face flushed red. From the back row, Emily shifted uncomfortably, her illusion of a perfect escape crumbling as she watched Michael unravel under oath. The cliffhanger. Finally, the judge removed his glasses, fixing Michael with a gaze that cut through every lie. His voice was stern, deliberate. Mr. Anderson, he said, this court does not tolerate arrogance in the face of truth. You have shown recklessness not only toward your marriage, but toward the well-being of your child. Your arrogance ends here. The gavel hovered, the room tense, everyone waiting for the ruling that would shatter one life and liberate another. The storm that had brewed for months finally reached its breaking point in that courtroom, where polished wood benches, the smell of paper and ink, and the gavel resting like a silent weapon turned into the theater of truth. The silence inside was so heavy it could be heard over the rain slapping against the tall windows. Claire sat upright at her table, binder closed now because it had spoken louder than her lips ever could. Beside her, Karen's expression was calm, confident, the look of someone who had fought battles like this before and knew victory was near. Michael, by contrast, sat stiff, his once proud shoulders bent forward as if the weight of his arrogance had finally turned into chains. His lawyer still whispered hurried instructions, but even he knew the tide had shifted. And Emily, the mistress who had once painted Michael's world in reckless color, sat at the back row of the gallery, hands clenched, her face pale, realizing that the man she thought would rescue her from obscurity was crumbling in front of her eyes. The collapse of lies. The judge leaned back, the room utterly silent as he recited Michael's pattern of deception. "You claim to be a devoted father," the judge said, flipping through Lily's drawings, "and yet your child's own hand testifies otherwise. You claim late nights were work obligations, yet the receipts and photographs demonstrate a different reality. You have misused family finances, endangered your child's stability, and broken the trust upon which this marriage was built." Michael tried to speak, his voice cracking. "Your Honor, But the judge raised a hand sharply. "Enough. I've heard enough." Emily dropped her gaze. Michael's lawyer swallowed hard, realizing the performance was over. The verdict. The gavel came down, sharp and final, a sound that reverberated like thunder. This court rules that custody of the minor child, Lily Anderson, will remain primarily with the mother, Claire Anderson. The father, Michael Anderson, is granted visitation under supervision until further review. Additionally, due to misuse of marital funds, financial restitution will be considered in subsequent hearings. The words hung in the air. Michael's face drained of color, his jaw slack as if he had not truly believed this outcome was possible. For months, he had thought himself invincible, the master of the illusion he had built. But now, with a single ruling, the illusion had shattered into glass shards at his feet. Claire, holding her breath until that moment, finally exhaled. She didn't smile. She didn't cry. She simply reached for her daughter's small hand and squeezed, whispering softly, "It's over. We're safe now." The mistress walks away. Emily stood, her heels clicking against the floor, echoing like small hammers of guilt. She didn't look at Michael as she brushed past the benches, her perfume a fleeting reminder of temptation now gone stale. At the door she paused, perhaps hoping Michael would turn, call her name, promise her something still worth holding on to. But Michael's eyes were downcast, his hands shaking, his lawyer muttering about appeals that both of them knew were hopeless. Emily pressed her lips together and walked out, vanishing into the rain. For Michael, it was the cruelest twist of all. He had lost his wife, his daughter, and now the woman he sacrificed everything for no longer wanted him. Final confrontation, outside the courtroom, under the gray drizzle of the courthouse steps. Michael caught up to Claire. He looked broken, water streaking his hair, his expensive suit clinging to him like a mockery. "Claire," he croaked, his voice hoarse. "Please, you can't do this to me. We had a life. We..." She turned to him, calm but resolute, Lily's hand in hers. Her eyes were steady, no anger, no vengeance, only truth. "You did this to yourself, Michael. You chose lies. I chose truth." For a moment, something flickered in his eyes. Regret, fear, the dawning realization that he had gambled and lost everything. But Claire didn't wait for him to respond. She turned, guiding Lily down the courthouse steps, each step a declaration that the past no longer had power over her. Michael stood alone, rain dripping down his face, the crowd dispersing until the steps were empty. He looked at the doors behind him, closed. He looked at Claire's retreating figure, gone. And for the first time, he understood the full weight of solitude. The ruin of a man. In the weeks that followed, Michael's life unraveled with ruthless speed. Word of the court ruling spread through his neighborhood, his workplace, his circle of friends. Clients pulled back. Colleagues avoided him. Promotions vanished. The respectable businessman of Willow Creek Lane was now whispered about in the grocery store, in the office hallways, at church pews. Emily, once a bold and demanding lover, never returned his calls. She blocked his number, erased their pictures, and moved on as if their affair had been nothing more than a phase. Michael returned to an empty house that echoed with silence, stripped of warmth, stripped of family. Supervised visits with Lily were awkward and painful. She would cling to her mother when it was time to go, her wide eyes watching him with a distance he could not bridge. And each time, Michael felt the walls of regret close tighter around him. The strength of a mother Claire, meanwhile, rebuilt quietly, but firmly. She returned to school part-time, studying business management, determined to secure a career of her own. With Karen's guidance, she managed finances carefully, ensuring Lily's education was never at risk again. Neighbors, once sympathetic onlookers, now looked at her with admiration. She was no longer just the wife betrayed. She was the woman who had stood in court and fought for dignity. One evening, as Lily prepared for bed, she asked softly, "Mommy, are we really safe now?" Claire tucked her in, brushed a strand of hair from her daughter's forehead, and kissed her gently. "Yes, baby, we are safe now, and we always will be." Tears stung her eyes, but they were not the tears of weakness. They were the tears of someone who had survived the storm and come out stronger. The camera of imagination lingers on the warm glow of the bedroom lamp, the little girl falling asleep with peace on her face for the first time in months, and the mother sitting beside her, watching with quiet strength. In the distance, the rain has stopped. Outside the window, the streets of Willow Creek Lane gleam under the soft glow of streetlights. A new beginning, free of lies, has finally arrived. No relationship survives without trust. Betrayal always collapses under the weight of truth. Children learn love through what they see. Show them dignity, and they will grow with unshakable hearts. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more powerful stories filled with suspense, emotion, and lessons of life.